You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Hi, folks. I'm Alan Watt, and I've been discussing some of the new banking system that's coming in, this new authority that they want to bring in, a global authority, which truly is the end of nationalism. It's just another nail in the coffin to make sure we get the message. And most of the public will breathe a sigh of relief when a new system is brought in. Then they'll go back to play for a while as they start to lose more and more freedoms and rights. And one day they'll wake up with no food and probably no home. And then they'll riot. And that's what the Department of Defense and the U.S. military's own documentation have stated, that there's going to be 30 to 40 years of rioting taking place. They just don't tell you why. But Joe and Jane Average, that likes to play, will dismiss that out of hand and say that will never happen, as they will with everything else that ever happens in their lifetime. Complete denial. And look at the money. There's all this going on as the banks supposedly merge and go down, all the rest of it. As all this is going on, the U.S. is spending billions just about every day or two with orders for new equipment and new technology and all the rest of it. It's just astounding to watch that. They're not worried. They don't seem to be worried about lack of funds. And I was looking at an article the other day there on these new miniature MAVs, they call them. These are little flying robots that they say are going to take off very shortly. And it's for urban warfare. It's for monitoring the urban landscape. Because you know yourself, obviously everything's to be terrorism from now on. Once there are no more countries, no more nations to fight, there'll have to be terrorism to fight, which will be everywhere. And from their point of view, they're quite correct, because the general population have had war declared on them for a long time. They just didn't know it. So if you still hold old-fashioned values and old ideas about rights and so on, then you technically are a terrorist, because the new system coming in does not believe that the average person is supposed to have rights. You're supposed to serve the world state. Be a servant to it. It's a nice term for a slave, really. And eventually, after all the banks go under, not just this time, but in the time to come too, maybe in another 4 or 5 years as we get used to them going, they'll bring in a credit system, a new credit system, as Bertrand Russell stated, and you'll have the government dishing out credits to every individual if you're well behaved. If you're not well behaved and you're anti-social, then they will simply withhold your credits and you can't pay your rent. And in the new system, remember, there's to be no private property. And think about that when you watch all these people losing their homes, not just in the US and Canada, but across Europe as well and everywhere else. They're collapsing the housing markets everywhere. Part of the agenda. It's amazing how everything that happens, as I say, just amazing how it always falls in line with the written and published agenda. It's astonishing. Utterly astonishing. It really is. Coincidence after coincidence. Now, this morning, I watched them start to spray the skies. The day started off as actually sunny, with a kind of blue color there that I vaguely remember from years gone by. And then they started spraying, and then the mush came overhead as they built these into this undefined horizon-to-horizon cloud. And then you can actually feel, after a few hours, almost a wheeze coming on, because this stuff's coming down to the ground. And I've also stated that this stuff is reaching saturation point in the ground, in the earth itself. And a few years ago I mentioned that the birds were declining. I told you must use your own observations. Don't wait for the media or press to tell you, because they'll tell you something eventually with a spin on it. And sure enough, the birds are declining. You don't hear the big chorus of birds at dawn. You don't hear the chorus of birds at sundown as they all settle in for the night. You just don't hear that anymore. You're lucky to see a bird. I can walk through the forest here, and it's pretty quiet, maybe 1 or 2 birds on the whole journey. And they're killing them off. I've also got moles, ground moles, coming up out of the ground frequently now and dying. Now, this stuff goes into the soil with the rain, with the dew as well. It brings it right down to the ground level itself. So this mole is living in a highly toxic environment, more condensed form of the chemicals in the spray than we're getting perhaps, and is killing them off. So birds and moles and other things too are dying. Well, here's the media spin. Now they've actually admitted the birds are declining. That's quite funny, really, the way they spin it. They always spin it to blame the public. And this is from the BBC News. It's a science and environmental reporter, Mark Kinver, it's called. Monday, 22nd of September, 2008. World's common birds declining. The population of the world's common birds are declining as a result of continued habitat loss. See, right off they give you a reason for it. See, that sounds plausible because we've been conditioned to believe this is true. I live in the forests here. There's thousands of miles of forests up this way. Thousands. If I go north, it's even more. And very few people. But they're putting it down to habitat loss. Well, if it's a loss somewhere, say in the Amazon, it's not affecting me up here or the birds up here. So why are the birds up here dying? It's because of the spray. Because of the spray. And it says a global assessment has warned. The survey by BirdLife International found that 45% of Europe's common birds had seen numbers fall. That's had more than 80% of Australia's wading species. Then they go on to try and rationalize and justify why it's happening, but global warming and human habitat destruction and all the rest of it. But they don't mention the spraying. The spraying, the common denominator to everything that's happening. It's the public are to blame, and we're supposed to get that message and really, really believe it. And it will kill more. Mind you, it's got to kill the public off as well. It's got to do that as well. They are dying with massive bronchial problems and various other defects. So that's that part there.